Hey everyone, it's your favorite security guard again. Winter is fast approaching here at the Cashmere Botanical Gardens, and the tourists are really flocking to see the exhibits we have. The lady's outdone herself with some of the wonders here, and with our new grove, complete with Guardian, admission has gone through the roof. There's also the living wood display, the toxic fauna room, the collection of tropical specimens grown right here on the premise, and the island of lilies that still holds the stone form of our founder. Today, however, I'm here to talk about a problem that's been cropping up from members of security lately. I'm speaking, of course, about the gnomes. Now, when people talk about gnomes, you have a certain idea of what they should look like, don't you? You think about colorful clothes and pointy hats and little white beards and cheery expressions. Maybe you think about short little creatures that scuttle around in the tall grass and hide from people. If that's what you're thinking, then you couldn't be further from the truth. I had seen them before, but I had no idea what they were. They didn't exactly look the way you would expect. Gnomes kind of resemble a ginseng root that's learned to walk. They're thick-bodied and brown, with strange red eyes and a mouthful of wiggly teeth. They don't wear clothes, but it doesn't seem to be much of a problem, because they don't have anything to cover. They dig through the dirt like moles and have been eating the vegetables in our garden by the handful. That was my first encounter with them, actually. I was coming on shift, making my way towards the gardens after stopping a bunch of tourists from trampling a display as they took pictures, when something bumped into my shin. I looked down and found the ugly little thing running from the gardens with carrots under its arms. It made a face at me. No mean feat for something that barely has a head. Martin, one of the other Brandylow, came tearing after it, yelling about vegetable thieves with a bleat and a clop of his hooves. The thing grabbed its spoils and beat feet, rounding a hedge as it fled into the garden. Martin huffed as he came even with me, out of breath and sweating as he pushed his glasses back on his face. "Damn things! The hell was that?" I asked. "No idea. They showed up this morning and started eating everything they could lay hands on." He went back to work then, the little creature long gone, and I went back to patrolling the grounds. There had been a lot of strange things lately. Trees with human faces and pumpkin-headed minions that had delivered war proclamations. But it was all sort of becoming normal by this point. I moved towards the Colors of Spring exhibit and found a few visitors watching something at work inside the ring. As I came up, an older man approached me, pointing and saying that there was some kind of animal in the exhibit. "It looks like one of those naked mole rat things. It's ruining your flower display." Sure enough, as I watched, something kept yanking the buds from beneath the ground. As it came up to eat them, I saw the horrid little thing that had been stealing carrots, though I knew it couldn't be the same one. As another popped up as well, I gritted my teeth. There was more than one of them, likely a lot more, and as I waded into the display, I wasn't certain I could get my hands on them. They looked unpleasant, and as I reached into the hole, I felt one of them latch onto my hand with its knobbly little teeth. As I yanked my hand out and looked at the weird little bites, I was even less certain that I could catch them. After some time spent digging, I was left with nothing to show but dirty knees and filthy hands. With nothing to show for my efforts, I went back to talk to Randy about it. Randy, however, was already aware of them. "Yeah, they've been wrecking up the place all day. They just kind of showed up yesterday and have been a real pain in the ass ever since." In the short time they had been here, they had eaten up most of the crops, wrecked up several of the exhibits, and made Racefell very upset after causing damage to his grove. They had been seen by quite a few guests, too, and that was something that would be harder to explain. We had to keep a low profile while we were here, so as not to scare our customers. We would give our lives to protect the lady, but She had decreed that we cover our hooves and keep our natures a secret for as long as possible, and these gnomes were going to mess that up. Looking over the reports, it didn't look good. "So what do we do about them?" I asked, watching the cameras and noticing more of them roaming around the park. "I don't see any way around it," Randy said. "We got to talk to the lady." Before we could set out, though, someone else wanted our help. "Randy!" someone yelled, their fists preceding their words by a heartbeat. "Randy, there are gnomes destroying my greenhouse!" We opened the door to find Tobias in a real state. Tobias was responsible for the greenhouses that bred the rare species seen in the park. He was a talented botanist or something, and he was one of the older brandylow that the lady had brought with her. He wasn't usually prone to outbursts, and if he was here, then it meant that something bad was happening back at the greenhouses. "Gnomes?" Randy asked. "Like the little things that sit in people's yards?" Tobias rolled his eyes. "That's rubbish, human nonsense. Gnomes are servants of the lady, but they're running amok, and they won't listen to me. I need your help before they ruin the samples I'm growing in the special housing area." Randy grabbed his club, a big iron-headed thing that the lady had given him as a symbol of his authority, and his shotgun because you could never be too careful. Those of us who considered ourselves to be under Randy's authority, the guards from before the Botanical Garden had changed hands, carried shortened clubs with metal heads on them as well, and I drew mine out as the three of us headed off to see what was going on. What we found was pure pandemonium. The greenhouse was full of the little things. They were stuffing everything that grew into their mouths, and the brandylow that worked here were chasing them around as they tried to protect the various projects. I remembered wondering how many there were, and now I could see the breadth of what we were dealing with. The ground was thick with them, something like 100 or more, swarming like ants over everyone and everything. They moved atop the brandylow as well, swarming them beneath their sheer numbers, and I looked at Brandy as he blew out a short breath in frustration. "What are we gonna do?" "Like you have to ask," he said, swinging the shotgun behind him on the cord around his shoulder. "We gotta get rid of them." As we moved among them, our clubs swung in a wide arc. We didn't seem to be doing much to them, our clubs smacking them but doing no lasting trauma to the little buggers. They were like dolls, their body full of smushy nothing, and they absorbed everything and came back stronger. For every one that we knocked aside, 2 more came on. We were slapped, bitten, stomped on by more feet than I'd ever seen before. Their teeth were mushy, but within lay a core like stone. They ground against us as we tried to stop them, but we weren't without options. Randy began tossing them out the door, bouncing them out of the greenhouse after ripping them off of our arms and legs. It didn't stop them from coming right back, but it seemed more like Randy enjoyed bouncing them off the ground than anything. Randy said a lot of things I really can't say here in a family-friendly setting, but when they stopped trying to bury us beneath their numbers, we both looked up to find our benefactor standing at the door of the greenhouse. She looked amused, but there was definitely some annoyance behind it. "What is the meaning of this?" The gnomes stopped moving, all of them turning beady eyes on the immaculate lady. Tobias was with her, standing behind her flowery dress like a little kid, and as she came inside, he looked at the sea of gnomes like a younger sibling who's tattled on someone naughty. He needn't have bothered, though. The gnomes had all stopped where they stood, bowing and scraping as they showed abeyance to their lady. From their ranks came an older gnome, wrinklier and more bent than the others. He bent low before her, and when he spoke, it sounded like one of those chipmunks from an old cartoon show. "My lady, we've found you at last." "Vladimir, my old friend, why did you not come to me immediately when you arrived?" The old gnome looked up, and though contrite, he still had the gleam of mischief about him. "1,000 pardons, my lady,
We were hungry from our long trip, and we're trying to feed our masses, so we might seek you out."
The lady nodded, not convinced in the least bit, but mollified nonetheless. "Well, since you're full now, I have work for your kind. Come with me, but you must be cautious. The people here do not know of your kind, as I do, and they do not trust what they do not know. You must remain hidden, as my Brandylow do, and out of sight. The winter approaches, and I will have need of you and your little ones to spy on my enemies." The gnomes went with her, and they caused minimal trouble after that. There were still vegetables missing from time to time, and some of the exhibits were chewed on some, but the gnomes did help now and then, and were ever the eyes of the summer lady. The guests were not bothered by them. Most of the gnomes weren't even seen by daylight, and we entered a shaky alliance with them. Some of the Brandylow, though Toby was not amongst them, were even glad to see them, telling us of times they had helped them win battles or plot the movements of winter with their spy network. "You're too young to know much of the coming war, but you'll discover it soon enough," Marshall told us one evening as we sat about the fire. "In times of war, a spy network is often worth its weight in gold, or, in the gnome's case, fresh produce and consternation. So if you visit the park, do not fear the stubby potato people that you may or may not see. The gnomes are the least dangerous thing that make Cashmere Botanical Gardens their home, and certainly not what you should be keeping an eye peeled for." Good evening, everyone. It's me, Dr. Plague. Thank you so much for joining me for tonight's video. If you still feel like you could do with a little more spooky in your life, why not click on one of the videos that's appearing on your screen? If you're not subscribed, why not go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss any of the stories we put on here. I make new videos 7 days a week, and I wouldn't want you to miss a one of them. So if you'd like to support the channel, why not go ahead and subscribe? Maybe hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of the great stuff we do here. And of course, if you'd like to support the channel in a more financial way, you could always become a member on YouTube or on Patreon. Spooky Skeletons, that's my $5 members, always get their videos early, as opposed to in the evening. And we've got lots of other cool stuff that you can take advantage of. Just go down to Patreon and give it a look, or become a member on YouTube. Speaking of all of our wonderful patrons and YouTube members, let's go ahead and thank them right now. Thanks to Unicorn Hollow, our Spooky Ghost contributor. Thanks to our Spooky Skeleton contributors, Janice, Lee Kendall, and Saikat. Thanks to our Ghostly Reader contributors, Hi Stacy, Winter, Xaronan, Emily Coltsfoot, Stephanie Carrington, Tyler Parker, Cinnamon Fox, and Sarah SAMR42. Thanks, guys. We just couldn't do the show without you. Again, if you'd like to support the show in a more monetary fashion, there are links below to Patreon, and you can just go to YouTube and click on membership, if that's something that interests you. There's also links to my latest book below if you'd like to go have a look on Amazon. It should show you the other books I've got as well, so why not go ahead and get the whole collection. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Dr. Plague, signing off. Have a wonderful evening.